Well, boys, this 2020 Supercross season is over. It's one I definitely won't forget. And it's one that I don't think anybody will forget. With coronavirus ending in June, having 7 rounds in Salt Lake, Chad Reed's final season, I don't think this is a season that anybody will be able to forget. It's crazy to think that it's all over, especially doing these kind of videos. This is number 17. That's insane. This has been a journey. I want to thank you guys for going on this journey with me. I had a lot of fun, and I hope you guys did too. So this last Salt Lake round 17, it was quite the eventful race. All around, heat races, mains, LCQs, the whole night was insane. The track got drier than it had, I think, for every Salt Lake round. Broke down. It seemed like everybody was having a really hard time on it. Even the fastest guys almost seemed like they were just kind of riding around. Some riders had probably the highest highs of their careers. Others had some of the lowest lows. It made for one heck of a finale. That is for sure. So with 250s, I mean, man, what do I even talk about? Ferrandis had the worst heat race of his life, had to go to the LCQ, then was way outside. Normally when factory guys are outside, I say to watch them because being with privateers, they normally get a good start because their bikes are so much faster. But in this case, with having both coasts, having the 10 fastest guys from each coast, I don't think that you can get a whole shot from the outside, especially when the start was as short as it was. Guys weren't separating going into the first corner. The first corner being as tight as it was. When you're on the outside, it's really hard to get around anybody. The inside is definitely more favorable, and we saw that with Ferrandis. In the first 250 main, things were really interesting. Both of the points leaders were super far back. The second place riders in both coasts were out at the front. And with how Ferrandis rode in the second main, if he would have rode like that in the first main, I don't know if he would have gotten it done. But with the way that Sexton was riding, I think he would have probably found his way to the front almost no matter what. But it didn't matter because Austin Forkner endoed super hard. Red flagged. His chances of the championship were over. I was really, really bummed because I personally wanted Forkner to win the West Coast Championship. I like Forkner a lot, and I was pretty bummed last year when he threw his championship away, and I thought he maybe not deserved, but I wanted him to win this championship because of how he kind of threw it away last year. And I don't think Mitch Payton has been very happy these past couple years with Forkner crashing out in the whoops last year, Cincerillo throwing it away in the last main of the year, and Forkner doing the same thing this year. Cincerillo did get Mitch a championship in outdoors, but still, Supercross is different, and I'm sure he's just not been the happiest of people in these last rounds. If Forkner stays in the 250 class, though, I don't really see anybody. If Ferrandis moves up, if McElrath moves up, if Sexton moves up, I don't see anybody being able to compete with him. Maybe Jet Lawrence if they're on the same coast. Obviously Justin Cooper if they're on the same coast. But with these other riders that were just a little bit off the pace, I just don't see them getting to the same pace as Forkner. So maybe next year's his year. Who knows? But when it comes to the second main, Sexton was on it. McElrath did try to play a couple games with him, but Sexton caught McElrath, passed him. Sexton let him back by. And then McElrath was kind of like, I think he wanted to put Sexton on the ground. So when Chase got back by him, he just put the hammer down and got a gap, and McElrath couldn't do anything. Sexton was by far the better of the two riders on the East Coast, and it showed. He stepped it up a ton from last year. I think we can all agree that he was kind of handed the championship last year when Forkner crashed because Forkner he won every single main until he got hurt. So yeah, I think we can all agree that Sexton was kind of handed the championship last year. he stepped it up big time this year. And I think if he is actually as big as they say he's 6'1", which is the same size as me. And I don't feel like he's as tall as me, but if he is, then I think he's going to be really good on a 450. Obviously, the taller you are, the more 450 is going to fit you than a 250. Yeah, he more than deserved that championship. He rode amazing. Obviously, the fastest guy on the day, which I didn't think was going to happen. Good job, Chase Sexton. You definitely deserved that championship. And then West Coast was wild. So obviously, Forkner crashed out. Red flag. He was not lining up for the second main. And then Ferrandis again, bad start. But Justin Cooper also got a bad start. Did he fall? I can't remember. And Ferrandis was ahead of Cooper, and that's all he needed to do. But his main event was not easy, that's for sure. He had some mistakes that cost him some time, and if he would have kept making those mistakes and if something stupid would have happened where he would have DNF'd, I don't know what place, if Cooper being in, I don't know what he got, like 8th or something. I don't know if that would have been enough for him to get the championship, but if Ferrandis would have done something to DNF, that would have been ridiculous because he was making a lot of mistakes and I could have seen it happening, but he didn't. And he rode in for an easy 4th. I don't even remember what place he got. And he defended his championship. Both 250 champions defended their championship. And both champions last year were they were handed their championships. Cianciarulo in Vegas last year threw away the championship. He was leading and he crashed, bent his bike all up, gave it to Ferrandis. So I think this year Ferrandis was really wanting to prove that he is a champion. Because I don't think anybody wants to win a championship with it just being handed to them. So with him being able to actually win it this year, battle both Forkner and Cooper and be the top rider, you could tell he liked this championship more than I think he did last year. He got pretty emotional on the podium, which I like to see. So yeah, great job to Ferrandis also. Ferrandis and Sexton, the 250 champions. Now I will say I do like these shootouts, and I think from a fan's perspective, it would be cool if these weren't regional championships and it was just every 250 rider together and it was one big championship. But as a racer, I really like how these are regional championships, because if it wasn't, there wouldn't be very many privateers in the 250 class, at least. I don't know if they would move up to the 450s, but there would be like no spots in the main for anybody other than somebody that's on a team. So the shootouts are cool as a fan, and it would be cool to have a national championship, not just a regional championship from a fan's perspective. But as a racer, just keep it as a regional championship. Give more privateers a shot to make it into the mains. So yeah, don't change anything. But 450s. So there's not like a ton to talk about. Tomac, all he had to do was get 18th or 19th. That is a pretty easy thing for him to do. Didn't get the best start and was looking really good, charging his way to the front. But then I think he just realized, like, hey, let's just settle in. Let's not throw this thing away. And he just rode an uneventful race, which is exactly what he should have done. Roczen and Webb were both behind him. And I was like, well, Roczen wouldn't, because Roczen was out of the championship. But if Webb would have caught up to him, I think he would have maybe tried to put Eli on the ground. But maybe not. I don't know. Either way, this is not the type of track that Webb is good at. When it's this dry and this slick, I don't think Webb is very comfortable. And I think we've seen that with the Salt Lake rounds. The wetter it is and not as slick is when he's done the best. So Webb didn't even get a chance to get up to Tomac because he rode not the best main. He really didn't. But I think the big story of the 450 main is the top three. That Rockstar Husqvarna swept the podium. I didn't know who to root for because Wilson has never won a 450 main. Osbourne has never won a 450 main. And Anderson hasn't won since his championship in 2018. So whoever won, I was going to be stoked. So it started out with Wilson in front, which I think this was probably a super big confidence booster for Wilson. And then Anderson and Osbourne. Anderson and Osbourne both got by Wilson. it seemed like Anderson was going to win. He was starting to pull away from Osbourne a little bit. He was looking really good. This track, I think, is pretty similar to what Anderson probably grew up riding in New Mexico. There was a video that Verb put on their Instagram not that long ago of Anderson on a 125 riding on this super hard-packed, super slick track when he was super young, and it reminded me a lot of this track. That's what I was thinking the whole time during the main. And it showed. He looked really good. He was most likely the fastest one on the track. I haven't looked at lap times or anything. And he would have won. But somehow his seat fell off. That had to hurt really bad. You know, when your seat gets too soft and when you're seat bouncing things, you start hitting your subframe because your seat just has zero support because it's way too soft. Imagine riding without a seat. I've never had my seat fall off, so I don't know what it's like, but it has to suck. So I was pretty bummed about that. But I was still super pumped that Osbourne was in the lead and he ended up winning. Although I was pretty bummed that there was no time left and Osbourne didn't get any kind of interview. Tomac barely got an interview. When you have a red flag, I guess that's what happens. Interviews get cut short because time runs out. But that's pretty much it for the 450 main. It was a little uneventful besides the top three. I thought that was really cool that Rockstar Husky, they swept the podium. I don't think they've ever done that, especially in the 450 class. So that was really cool to see, and I was really happy about that. And then Tomac was able to win his first championship. And that little statistic that they said, with it being Father's Day, that there's never been a 450 Supercross champion that was a father, and Eli's the first one. When they first said that, I had a hard time believing it. I was like, there's no way. And I thought maybe, I was like, Reed wasn't a dad? No, he wasn't a dad. I looked it up. And then other than that, I was like, wait, who else would have been a dad? And then I realized, like, yeah, I think that statistic is true. That was pretty cool. With it being Father's Day, Eli, his first Father's Day, and being a dad and winning the championship, that's a pretty cool story. I may have had other riders that I may have wanted to win this championship more at the beginning of the season. But now that he's actually won it, I'm actually, like, pretty pumped for the dude. I really am. He obviously is the fastest one out there. He has more wins than Dungey, who has 4 Supercross championships, and yet he's never won one. He's been the fastest guy for the past probably 5 years and has never been able to get it done. And this year he showed something a lot different mentally, that he wanted this championship, and he definitely deserves it. I think he deserves it more than anybody. I'm pumped. I'm actually really pumped for Eli. I'm really glad that he won. So great job, Eli. You were 100% the fastest dude all season. You put in some incredible rides. It was super fun to watch. He's a champion. He just made a ton of money. And he's probably going to win his 4th outdoor championship in a row. That's my guess. But with this, the last thing I want to say is I didn't realize how bummed I would be with Reed retiring until I saw all those videos of him giving his thanks, talking about how it's his final race and him getting emotional, seeing the pictures of him and his wife afterwards, seeing how emotional he was getting. It's honestly, it sucks that he's getting old because he's been around for so long. And I remember hating Reed when I was young. And then probably when he got off of Yamaha, I started to become a fan. And then when he started his own team, I was a fanboy. I loved Reed. And I still love Reed. And I think everybody does now. He was just that rock star Australian kid that came over and started giving problems to the heroes of the Americans in the sport. Carmichael, Stewart, both Ryans. It's going to be a bummer to not have him in the sport. He's an icon for sure. He's like Dale Earnhardt in NASCAR. When they're gone, it's going to be like a hole in the sport. But personally, I think he'll at least do what Wyndham did. I think next year, if anything, he'll go out in each opening ceremony. I think it would be rough to have your last Supercross when you're somebody like a Chad Reed, to have it without fans. For a proper send-off, he should go to every Supercross next year. Go out in the opening ceremonies. so that he can thank everybody in the crowd. The Denver Supercross, I would have been there and I would have seen him, but it got canceled. And there's how many 7 Supercrosses that are the same that people would have wanted to see Reed for one last time? I think that would be pretty cool if he did that. And if I'm being totally honest, that probably wasn't his last Supercross. He probably will show up for Anaheim 1. But if he doesn't, just to have him there in the opening ceremonies, I think that would be the best send-off. The 2020 season is done. These videos are done. I'm not doing outdoors because I'll be racing outdoors. I want to thank you guys for watching this little Supercross recap series. I don't even know what these were when I started. I still don't know what they are. It's just kind of me rambling about the races, and sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. When it comes to next year, I don't know what I'll do as far as this. I don't know if I'll even be doing YouTube at that time. I don't know what next year holds. I think something that would be cool would be to do this in like a podcast form. Me watching it live on the podcast, and you guys can listen in while watching it too. I don't know. We'll see what next year holds. But as far as this year, again, I just want to thank you guys for watching. This has been really cool. Growing this little community around these races was pretty awesome. And this won't be quite the last 2020 Supercross video. I do want to look at like stats and stuff of this season compared to other seasons maybe. And I might do that in a couple days. We'll see. But as far as this video goes, I'm done. So thanks guys. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. All that stuff. You guys are my favorite people. Thanks again. Bye.